Imagine waking up in a world where Adolf Hitler won World War II. There's no United Nations, no Cold War, no Marvel movies, no internet as we know it, and no global democratic order. A single ideology dominates the planet. One man's vision reshapes everything from politics to art to the very way people think. This isn't just some dystopian fantasy. It's a terrifying alternate reality that almost happened. To imagine this world, you must first understand the turning points that define the real war and what might be happened if they went the other way. Let's rewind history and assume a few key changes. Hitler delays his invasion of the Soviet Union, avoiding a brutal winter war. Instead, he focuses all efforts on defeating Britain, who stands alone after France falls. Without US support and under constant bombardment, Britain eventually surrenders. The royal family flees. The government is exiled. Nazi sympathizers rise within, and a puppet regime takes over. Then, the Nazis launch a full-scale attack on the Soviet Union, better timed, better supplied. Without the Western Front draining their resources, they break the Red Army's resistance. Stalin is either assassinated, captured, or forced into exile. Moscow falls. The Soviet Union collapses into occupation zones. With both Britain and Russia gone, Europe becomes a Nazi continent. Across this new Europe, puppet governments follow Berlin's orders. In France, fascist collaborators run the show. In Poland and Eastern Europe, resistance is crushed and entire populations are erased or enslaved. The final solution accelerates, with no one left to stop it. Jewish communities, Roma, LGBTQ individuals, intellectuals, and dissidents are hunted without pause. Culture itself changes. Books are rewritten to praise Hitler's genius. Children learn racial hierarchy as science. German becomes the primary language of governance and commerce across the continent. Art becomes propaganda. History is erased or rewritten. The Catholic Church is weakened or outlawed. Protestant churches are co-opted. All religion is slowly replaced by worship of the state of Hitler himself. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the United States watches. But it's not the superpower we know today. Without Pearl Harbor, it stays neutral, divided between isolationists and interventionists. Pro-Nazi groups gain political influence, funded quietly by German intelligence. America may not be conquered militarily, but ideologically, it starts to fracture. The country becomes cautious, inward-looking, paranoid. If the Axis tightens its grip on Latin America or even Canada, the US could find itself encircled. Japan, having taken the Pacific Islands and much of China, becomes an Eastern empire rivaling the Reich in scope. Together, Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan split the world in two, and the US is no longer the dominant power. Now imagine daily life in this alternate 1950s. You wake up in a concrete apartment block designed by fascist planners. You salute a poster of the Fuhrer as you leave your building. Your newspaper, radio, and every form of media you consume are state-controlled. What you say, even in private, is monitored. Children report on their parents. Friends vanish overnight. Your job, your marriage, even your thoughts must align with the Reich's ideology. There is no tolerance. There is no diversity. There is only loyalty or death. Even entertainment becomes a tool of indoctrination. Jazz is outlawed as degenerate. Modern art is destroyed. Hollywood collapses under Nazi pressure or is replaced entirely with fascist filmmaking. A global monoculture emerges, one that glorifies conquest, strength, and racial purity. But even in this dark world, technology continues to advance. Nazi Germany was already developing rockets and jet aircraft during the real war. In this timeline, they perfect nuclear weapons by the 1950s. They dominate the space race, putting satellites and men into orbit long before the US ever could. But this innovation isn't for humanity, it's for control. Surveillance systems track every citizen. Computers are used to log, profile, and police thought. An early internet exists, but it's a closed network of propaganda and psychological monitoring. Medicine advances, but ethics vanish. Experiments on humans become routine. Eugenics replaces genetics. Children are selectively bred for strength and obedience. The disabled, mentally ill, and nonconformists are quietly removed from society. The Reich begins to colonize Africa, enforcing racial hierarchies and labor camps across the continent. Middle Eastern oil becomes a strategic asset. India, left without Allied support, is either conquered or divided. Australia, cut off from the West, must choose resistance or compliance. But humanity never gives up completely. In every city and every country, underground resistance networks form. In basements, in forests, in mountain caves, people print banned literature. They hide wanted individuals. They broadcast radio signals. They sabotage trains, bomb factories, and spy on collaborators. These rebels aren't just fighting a regime. They're fighting for the survival of memory, of truth, of freedom itself. Generations grow up knowing only the Reich's version of history. But whispers of the old world survive. Stories pass through families, coded into songs, etched into walls. Eventually, someone somewhere fights back. A second world war brews, not between nations, but between systems. And that leads us to ask the final question. If Hitler had won, could he ever truly hold the world? Empires fall, tyrants die, but not before leaving scars so deep it takes centuries to heal. This alternate world is not a place we want to visit, but it's one we need to imagine, because history is not inevitable. It's shaped by choices, by courage, by resistance. World War II could have ended differently, and if it had, your entire reality could be unrecognizable today. That's the power of what if, and that's the reason we must never forget how close we came.